Hi, this is Nicholas Yock, a registered education and migration agent from Pathway to Oz. As an agent, we're often asked, how can I get more points to apply for general skilled migration? Obviously, the more points you have, the higher chance you'll receive an invitation to apply for the skilled independent visa, the skilled or state nominated visa, or the regional nominated visa. So you receive points for things such as your age, your education, your work experience, your English ability, etc. With the new changes coming in November 2019, there'll also be a few other options to get points. And in this video, we're going to discuss, some of the most common ways that you might be able to gain points to apply for the visa. All right, so the first and the newest change is that after November, you're going to get points based on your relationship status. So if you're single, you'll get 10 extra points, which is huge. Also, if you have a partner that can pass a skills assessment and an in-demand job, and also has competent English, you'd get 10 points. If you have a partner who can't pass a skills assessment in a relevant occupation, but can speak competent English, you'd get 5 points. And if you have a partner who can't even speak competent English, you get no points. So basically what the government is trying to do here is trying to encourage people, to migrate with partners who will, integrate into society easily. Another big change coming from November is that you'll get 15 points for regional nomination. This is huge. 15 points is such a big number if you only need to get to 65 for regional nomination. So basically the government's trying to encourage people to, move regional. Please note you'd also get 5 points for state nomination, which is always very helpful as it's a permanent visa, the state nom. Another thing that I want to talk about is studying in Australia. So you'll get 5 points if you complete a relevant trade occupation, degree, or diploma in a qualification that goes for at least or approximately 2 years in Australia. So there's a few requirements to this, but yeah, basically if you study in Australia in the right course, you'll get 5 extra points. Please note, if you do study in Australia in the right course, you can also potentially obtain what's called a graduate work visa when you finish, which would allow you to live and work in Australia after. You would also get an additional 5 points if you study in a regional area, which would be huge. And if, as we said before, you apply for a graduate visa and you work in Australia on that graduate visa, you can get an additional 5 points for working in Australia if you do that for 1 year. So just by studying in a regional area and working in Australia on the graduate visa, you could get an additional 15 points, which would be huge. Or even 10 points if you don't study in a regional area is huge. All right, so probably, and I don't want to say the easiest way to get more points, but the most common way for people to get more points is to improve their English ability. So for superior English, you get 20 points, which is 8 across the board in IELTS, or the equivalent test, or 10 for proficient English. So, going out, getting a tutor, getting your English up to the level it needs to be, it could be a good option. Another option, which is quite often done by a lot of our applicants just needing to get 5 extra points, is doing the Accredited Translator and Interpreter course or program. So, you can do this course in Arabic, Spanish, Punjabi, Nepali, a few different ones. And if you pass the test, you'll get an additional 5 points. There's a few other not quite as common ones, such as a professional year, which is kind of like an internship for people who do like accounting or engineering or IT, which would allow you to get an additional 5 points. Or another recent change is that if you have a master's or PhD in a STEM qualification, so science, technology, engineering, or mathematics, you may get an additional 10 points. So you can see there, the government's obviously trying to encourage people, in those professions to migrate to Australia. So these are just a few extra ways you can gain some points. We actually have a great points test tool that I'll put in the link below. And if you do have any questions about how to correctly calculate your points, or any of the general skilled migration visas, feel free to contact Pathway to Oz. Thank you.